Coca-Cola spends billions on advertising every year but never directly promotes their products. Instead, they sell ideas like happiness, harmony, and togetherness. Some argue this is a distraction from troubling truths. The company faces serious accusations, including causing disease, droughts, and exploitation. Let's explore Coca-Cola's incredible history spanning 3 centuries and examine how it became one of the most recognized brands ever, and at what cost. Because one thing is for sure, you don't build an empire selling sugar water by telling people the truth. King-size Coca-Cola gives you that refreshing new feeling. There's nothing like ice-cold Coca-Cola. Back in the 1880s, there was a backlash against doctors, leading people to use home remedies instead. Deceitful entrepreneurs saw an opportunity and started creating potions and elixirs with claimed medical benefits. These were mostly dangerous, ineffective concoctions, but with no regulation, they could claim any health benefits they wanted, and business boomed. One popular patent medicine was Vin Mariani, which contained a mix of wine and cocaine, supposedly curing almost any ailment if consumed 3 times daily. John Pemberton, a war veteran severely injured in battle, loved this drink. Doctors, thinking he was going to die, dosed him with morphine to mask the pain. But he survived and developed a serious morphine addiction. John Pemberton developed an addiction, and when he discovered Vin Mariani, he became hooked. He thought it helped his morphine addiction, but it was the wine and cocaine making him feel better. As a chemist, Pemberton decided to create his own version. In 1884, he launched French wine Coca, a knockoff of Vin Mariani with extra ingredients. This would eventually become Coca-Cola. Pemberton wasn't trying to deceive people. He believed in his product. However, his timing was unfortunate. A year later, Prohibition hit, and many states banned alcohol. Pemberton had to remove the wine and replace it with carbonated water, which made the drink bitter. To counteract the bitterness, he added a large amount of sugar. Without the wine, they needed a new name. Pemberton's bookkeeper, Frank Robinson, suggested Coca-Cola. The company later claimed the name was meaningless, but it referenced the drink's 2 main ingredients, the cola nut, caffeine, and the coca leaf, cocaine. Despite denials, it's well documented that the formula contained the coca leaf. By 1929, they found a way to remove all active cocaine from the coca leaves. In the 1880s, cocaine in the drink wasn't a concern. However, without wine, sales were slow. Early ads described Coca-Cola as a harmless, wonderful brain tonic that relieved headaches and upset stomachs, but it didn't stand out among many similar products. Pemberton's health worsened, his addiction grew stronger, and by 1888, he had passed away. Tragically, he never knew his drink would become one of the most well-known beverages worldwide. Right before John Pemberton died, he sold the company for $2,300 to Asa Candler, an ambitious workaholic. Candler then bought out any outstanding shares to gain full control. Later investigations revealed some documents with forged signatures, suggesting Candler may not have legitimately acquired all the shares. To cover his tracks, Candler even had early company records burned. By the 1890s, Asa Candler was fully in charge of Coca-Cola. Initially, Coca-Cola wasn't very popular. Candler responded by filling the town with Coke-branded banners, billboards, and placards, even painting the logo on barns. One of Coke's first marketing strokes of genius was contacting local pharmacies, getting a list of their top customers, and sending them a free coupon for Coca-Cola. The idea was that a free trial would turn people into lifelong customers, especially since the drink contained several addictive chemicals. It soon became clear that marketing Coca-Cola as a medicine was a mistake. Instead, Candler repositioned it as a tasty, relaxing drink that anyone could enjoy. This strategy distanced Coca-Cola from the patent medicine industry, which was facing scrutiny for false claims. The mass marketing strategy was a huge success. As sales grew rapidly, Candler reinvested more money into advertising and even started paying movie stars and athletes to endorse the drink. A key aspect of Coke's success was creating a positive, wholesome image. They heavily featured Santa Claus in their Christmas ads, always holding a Coke, to associate the drink with the joy of Christmas in young minds. None of Coca-Cola's marketing strategies may sound particularly special today, but at the time, they were groundbreaking. Coca-Cola pioneered many marketing techniques that soon became commonplace. For example, the concept that sex sells is now a cliché. But Coke was one of the first mainstream companies to exploit this by using Coca-Cola girls, attractive women always seen with a Coke in hand. Coca-Cola even created a statistical department to analyze car traffic and movement in supermarkets to determine the most effective places for their ads. As new technologies emerged, from radios to TV, Coke was always ready to invest in advertising on these new mediums to ensure everyone knew about its products. Initially, Coke was mostly sold in soda fountains, saving the company huge amounts of money as they only had to distribute the syrup, which was then mixed with carbonated water by the seller. This kept shipping and distribution costs low. However, two lawyers, Benjamin and Joseph, proposed the idea of bottling Coke. Asa Candler initially thought this was a dumb idea because bottling was expensive and complicated. But Benjamin and Joseph offered to take on all the costs and risks themselves. Candler agreed and signed a contract granting them full bottling rights for Coca-Cola for a nominal fee of $1. He figured he had nothing to lose, and if the bottling idea succeeded, it would simply mean selling more syrup. Bottled Coke turned out to be an unimaginably huge success. Customers loved bottled Coke, and initially, this was great for Candler as the bottlers were buying loads of syrup from him, creating a great revenue stream. However, there was a major problem. Because Candler hadn't believed in the bottling idea, he hadn't put much thought into the contract. There was no time frame set on the deal and no mention of adjusting the price if production costs increased. This meant Candler had given the bottlers a never-ending contract to supply syrup at the same low price, regardless of cost increases. This led to multiple lawsuits between Coke and its bottlers over the next few decades. Coca-Cola ended up paying millions to buy back some of the rights Candler had sold for just $1. But in the early 1900s, this wasn't a concern for Candler because Coca-Cola sales were higher than ever and growing each year. This rapid growth wasn't due to the product itself. There were many similar drinks, and Coca-Cola was a knockoff of another drink anyway. The growth was driven by relentless marketing. Every year, Coca-Cola spent more on advertising, and every year, sales grew. Coca-Cola's biggest successes, however, came from a surprising source. Once the Second World War broke out, sugar was announced to be rationed. However, Coca-Cola made the absurd claim that they should be exempt from sugar rationing because Coke was an essential wartime product. Even more absurdly, the government agreed, largely due to Coca-Cola's extensive lobbying efforts. Coke funded countless studies to convince the government of its benefits, claiming that Coke would boost soldier morale and provide an energy boost. The U.S. government eventually appointed a Coca-Cola executive to the rationing board, who then granted Coca-Cola an exemption from sugar rationing, while every other company had to reduce their sugar usage. Coca-Cola didn't stop there. The company's president publicly promised, "We will see that every man in uniform gets a bottle of Coca-Cola for 5 cents, wherever he is and whatever it costs our company." Although this meant losing money on each drink sold, the decision was genius. It created a strong connection between Coke and the war effort in the public's eyes, gaining huge public support and goodwill. Coca-Cola ran wartime ads featuring soldiers with Coke bottles, reinforcing this connection. Behind the scenes, Coke made a deal with the government to help fund the setup of Coca-Cola bottling plants overseas. They claimed it would spread American influence and boost soldier morale. In reality, it meant taxpayers were helping to fund Coke's international expansion. During the war, 64 Coke bottling plants were set up around the world, mostly funded by governments. Technicians installing Coca-Cola plants were deemed as vital as those fixing tanks and planes. With Coke accessible to soldiers worldwide, they shared the drink with locals, aiding Coke's expansion into new countries. Soldiers were so grateful for Coke sending them a taste of home during the war that they became the drink's biggest advocates. The U.S. military essentially became a Coca-Cola sales force, introducing the drink wherever they went. While the war devastated most companies and people, Coca-Cola expanded faster than ever globally. Today, only 2 countries, Cuba and North Korea, do not sell Coke. The deals Coke made during the war were largely responsible for its rapid global expansion. However, there's one tiny problem with this heartwarming idea of Coca-Cola as a patriotic company looking out for American soldiers. During the war, Coca-Cola was supplying Nazi Germany with Coke. While in the US, Coke was promoting support for the troops. In Germany, they distanced themselves from anything American, often displaying the Coke logo alongside swastikas. Coca-Cola was distributed at Hitler Youth rallies and advertised on Nazi educational pamphlets, literally playing both sides to maintain their market in Germany. As the war progressed, restrictions were introduced, cutting off supplies of many goods to Germany. Most multinational corporations couldn't sell their products there anymore. However, Max Kaif, the head of Coke's largest bottling operation in Germany, devised a plan to bypass these restrictions. He had local chemists create a new drink similar to Coke, but made from leftover scraps like apple fiber, since Coke syrup could no longer be imported. This new drink was named Fanta. With many other drinks banned because of the war, Fanta became a huge hit in Nazi Germany. Some sources suggest that Kaif used forced labor from concentration camps to produce it. What we know for sure is that, at the end of the war, the profits from Fanta went back to Coca-Cola headquarters, and Kaif was promoted within the company. By 1955, Coke was selling Fanta in many countries around the world. Coca-Cola tried to distance itself from this dark chapter in its history. However, the company wouldn't have expanded globally so rapidly without a team of polyglots who could speak multiple languages. Coca-Cola will tell you that their biggest secret is the drink's formula, hidden in a high-security vault for dramatic effect. However, the formula isn't that secret. It's on Wikipedia. Coca-Cola's success has little to do with the formula. You could create a clone product, but you wouldn't be able to compete with them. Let's explore why. One day, a teacher at a new school suggested adding healthier choices to the vending machines, like fruit juices. She was horrified to learn it wouldn't be possible because the school had an exclusive contract with Coca-Cola. Coke paid the school $3,000 a year, or around $1 per student, to dictate which products the school sold. Contracts like this exist with countless schools as part of Coke's cradle-to-grave strategy. The best way to make someone a Coke customer for life is to ensure they drink it from a young age. One Coke marketing chief pointed out that it's easier to get them young and vulnerable than to convert them later. In some contracts, schools could earn additional money by selling more Coca-Cola to their students. Many underfunded schools, desperate for money, would push Coke's products to their children. This is just one way Coke circumvents rules about advertising to children. Another way is through countless collector's items, including Barbie dolls, playing cards, board games, delivery trucks, and other toys that they claim are for adults. These strategies ensure that Coca-Cola remains deeply ingrained in consumers' lives from a young age, making it incredibly difficult for any competitor to break their hold. Coca-Cola's marketing strategy includes tying Santa Claus to their brand through Christmas ads, embedding this association deeply into the minds of impressionable children. In 1982, Coke even bought Columbia Pictures to integrate product placement into their films. Though they later sold the studio, they continued paying for product placement in other companies' films. This clever loophole allowed Coke to circumvent rules about targeting children, as product placement in family films remains highly effective. Research shows that even babies recognize Coke as one of the most prominent brands globally. However, by the 1980s, Coke faced growing scrutiny over the negative health effects associated with its product. While concerns about tooth decay were long-standing, new data revealed serious issues like obesity, diabetes, and other health problems. Studies showed that even one extra sugary drink a day increased the risk of overweight by 60%. Another study found that babies exposed to high sugar intake would develop a lifelong dependence on sugar. For a brand built on a wholesome image, these revelations were a major setback, particularly as Coke pursued strategies to offer larger portion sizes. The inclusion of caffeine, which Coke claimed was solely for taste, also raised questions. Blind taste tests revealed no difference between caffeinated and non-caffeinated versions, prompting some to wonder why Coke continued to add this addictive ingredient to a drink marketed to children. The soda industry adopted a strategy similar to that of the tobacco industry, casting doubt on the science rather than debating policies. Behind the scenes, Coke invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into studies designed to downplay the link between soft drinks and health problems. These studies, funded by Coke, often failed to disclose their sponsorship. However, Coke knew they could only delay addressing health concerns for so long before the science became too undeniable. They began expanding into other beverage categories, like their bottled water brand, Dasani. This expansion quickly backfired in the UK, where it was discovered that Dasani was essentially local tap water. Despite Coke's attempt to defend their product by explaining their purification process, it was found that a bad batch of minerals had contaminated the water. As a result, 500,000 bottles had to be withdrawn from stores over safety fears, leading to accusations of selling expensive, contaminated tap water. This was not the worst of Coke's contamination issues. In 1999, Belgium experienced a serious problem when children became ill after drinking Coca-Cola, leading to a recall of all Coke products. France also reported over 100 cases of illness from contaminated Coke and temporarily banned the product. Coke's slow response to these issues drew criticism for not taking the problem seriously enough. In India, Coke faced accusations of contaminating groundwater with wastewater. The company admitted to having a wastewater issue but claimed it was resolved. However, independent tests later found traces of toxic sludge from Coca-Cola's Indian plants. This sludge reportedly made land barren, killed local wildlife, and destroyed the livelihoods of local farmers. The Center for Science and Environment in New Delhi found pesticide residues in both Coke and Pepsi, suggesting long-term consumption could cause cancer, birth defects, and severe immune system disruption. One villager reported that the water quality deteriorated after Coca-Cola's arrival, and others complained of skin irritation from bathing in contaminated water. Coke's environmental record continued to worsen as they operated bottling plants in several drought-stricken areas. In Mexico, between 2000 and 2006, the country's president, who had formerly been head of Coca-Cola Mexico, gave favorable treatment to his former employer. During his presidency, he granted Coca-Cola 27 water concessions, leading to claims that the company polluted water and even stole water from indigenous communities. One local resident lamented the scarcity of water, accusing Coke of taking it without proper compensation. As Coca-Cola continued to expand its global dominance, it faced numerous controversies and criticisms. For instance, in Mexico, the company allegedly pressured shopkeepers to remove competing brands from their stores. In Brazil, Coke experimented with vending machines that increased prices based on the temperature outside, a move that was met with backlash. Additionally, Coke was involved in channel stuffing, a practice where distributors were forced to buy more syrup than necessary to inflate the company's profits artificially. The most severe backlash came in the early 2000s when a campaign called Stop Killer Coke accused the company of being responsible for the murder and intimidation of union members working at its bottling plants in Colombia. Since 1989, numerous unionized workers at Coca-Cola's Colombian bottling plants were killed or received death threats. The International Labor Rights Fund filed a lawsuit in 2001 against Coca-Cola's bottlers, alleging that they used death squads to suppress union activities. A few years later, Guatemalan workers filed another lawsuit claiming similar violence against them after they attempted to form unions. Coca-Cola denied involvement in these incidents, arguing that the Guatemalan plant was independently owned and that they had no knowledge of the violence. Whether or not Coca-Cola was directly complicit, the company certainly benefited from the suppression of unions. In Latin America, Coca-Cola earned a grim nickname, the Sparkle of Death, reflecting the severe impact on workers. The company's history reveals a complex and often troubling picture. Asa Candler, the entrepreneur who played a key role in popularizing Coca-Cola, once expressed a troubling view on child labor, stating that the younger the boy began work, the more beautiful. This perspective highlights some of the ethical issues that have plagued Coca-Cola's history. However, it's essential to recognize that many large corporations with long histories have faced ethical challenges, and similar criticisms can be applied to their competitors as well. Coca-Cola has also contributed positively to various communities and initiatives. Ironically, some of the most significant backlash Coca-Cola faced was not due to these moral or legal issues, but rather because of changes to the taste of their drink. In the face of declining market share and a successful Pepsi challenge that indicated a preference for Pepsi's taste, Coca-Cola decided to make a bold move. Despite multiple opportunities to acquire Pepsi, one notable offer was for just $50,000 in 1933. Coca-Cola had rejected these offers and found itself locked in a fierce competition with its rival. Instead of buying Pepsi, Coca-Cola engaged in legal battles, such as attempting to sue Pepsi for using the term cola, which backfired when Pepsi countered with allegations of anti-competitive practices by Coca-Cola. The courts ruled that cola was a generic term that anyone could use, The competition between Coke and Pepsi intensified when both companies began cutting prices and offering discounts to outdo each other. But this price war ultimately hurt both brands. They then shifted their focus to advertising, with Pepsi making a notable move by launching the Pepsi Challenge in 1975. This campaign involved a blind taste test where people were given 2 cups, one with Pepsi and one with Coca-Cola, without knowing which was which. The results showed that more people preferred Pepsi, and this data became a central part of Pepsi's advertising strategy. Coca-Cola was faced with the reality that its market share was slowly eroding while Pepsi's was growing. Despite Coca-Cola's substantial marketing campaigns and price promotions, Pepsi's taste advantage was evident. Determined to regain its market dominance, Coca-Cola embarked on a highly secretive project to develop a new formula. After extensive testing, Coca-Cola introduced a new formula that performed better in taste tests compared to both the original Coca-Cola and Pepsi. This led to the introduction of New Coke just before Coca-Cola's 100-year anniversary. The announcement of New Coke was marketed as a significant development in Coca-Cola's history. However, the reaction from the public was anything but positive. People had strong emotional attachments to the original formula, and many were upset by the change. The backlash was swift and intense, with customers expressing their displeasure and nostalgia for the original taste. Coca-Cola's decision to replace its classic formula with New Coke is now considered one of the most famous marketing blunders in history. Realizing their mistake, Coca-Cola quickly reverted to the original formula, branding it as Coca-Cola Classic. This move was met with widespread relief and renewed customer loyalty, reaffirming the importance of the original recipe in Coca-Cola's identity. The New Coke episode serves as a cautionary tale about the risks of altering a beloved brand's core product and the power of consumer attachment. The New Coke debacle was a significant episode in Coca-Cola's history, reflecting the complex interplay between branding, consumer perception, and product loyalty. When Coca-Cola introduced New Coke, they did so with the confidence that their new formula, which outperformed both the original Coke and Pepsi in taste tests, would be well received. However, they underestimated the emotional attachment people had to the original formula. The backlash against New Coke was swift and intense. Customers felt betrayed by the removal of a product that had been a part of their lives for nearly a century. The outrage was so pronounced that Coca-Cola's customer service lines were overwhelmed with complaints, and the media coverage was filled with negative reports. People were not just upset about the taste. They felt that their cherished drink, a symbol of comfort and nostalgia, had been taken away. Despite the negative taste tests, the introduction of Coca-Cola Classic was met with overwhelming enthusiasm. Consumers praised the return of their old favorite, and sales soared. This episode not only reaffirmed the emotional bond between Coca-Cola and its customers but also demonstrated the power of brand loyalty. The success of the reintroduced Classic Coke highlighted that consumer attachment to a brand often transcends objective measures like taste. The New Coke experience showed that Coca-Cola's brand was more than just the beverage itself. It was a representation of joyful moments, nostalgia, and tradition. This powerful brand image had been meticulously crafted over decades of advertising and marketing, positioning Coca-Cola as a symbol of happiness and togetherness. The fact that New Coke, despite being objectively preferred in taste tests, failed to capture the market, while the original Coke retained its status, is a testament to the strength of Coca-Cola's brand identity. It's a vivid example of how deeply ingrained brand perception can be, influencing consumer preferences far beyond the actual product attributes. In summary, Coca-Cola's marketing strategy demonstrates the importance of emotional connections in branding. The company's ability to leverage this emotional bond, despite controversies and setbacks, has played a significant role in maintaining its position as a global icon. Thanks for watching, and subscribe Dark Mind and hit the bell icon for more exiting videos.